Barbara was just a gorgeous, friendly girl. She loved life to its fullest. Barbara and I met on a blind date when we were both students at Tufts University. She was in a sorority and I was in a fraternity that were brother and sister. I needed, because of my position in the fraternity, to go to a social event. I had asked two girls and gotten two refusals. So the brother said, "Don't ask anybody else." And I said, "If I don't ask anybody else, I won't have a date." They said, "Oh, yes, you will." They called the sister sorority and said, "We have this member. He needs to go to this event. He needs a date." Barbara was going steady with a boy at Tufts, but her sorority didn't like him. So they talked her into going out with me for one date and one date only. And that's how it all started. Within a few weeks, she wrote him a Dear John letter and said it was over. Barbara was a loving, caring wife. We were very blessed. We had 3 children, a girl and then 2 boys, and she stayed home with them until the youngest one was in school. She went to work full-time when the youngest one was in high school. And she, along the way, after getting her bachelor's from Tufts University, she got her master's from the University of Hartford, and she got her doctorate from Seattle University, all in the education guidance field. And she was a very successful principal. She was just very well liked, very respected. She had a fantastic career. She was always a happy person. She was not a downer. And I loved her. She says, "I'm having memory problems." She was about 62 and she quit working, and we took her to the University of Washington Alzheimer's Research, and they diagnosed her with what was called mild cognitive impairment. And they said her chances were 80% that within 3 to 5 years, the diagnosis would change to Alzheimer's. And in 4 years, because she was going in periodically to see them, 4 years later, they sat us down and explained her case was Alzheimer's. So she had 2 infections, and the doctors that come to the Marabella sat me down and explained to me, "We can't pump enough antibiotics in her. We're losing the battle. So we recommend that you call Providence Hospice." Barbara had made me make a few promises. One was that if the Alzheimer's research people called and said they had a study and she was an eligible candidate, she had been in 8 studies for them, I was to sign her up. The other was I was not allowed for the medical profession to put her on machines. She said, "I don't want that. You're not to do that to me." Since Barbara had made me promise that she would not be kept alive on machines, my big concern was I did not want her to suffer. And the doctors had explained to me that with 2 different infections, she was probably going to be suffering if we didn't make some decisions. Hospice came in and they took over the medication management. She did not suffer. And I can still remember before they were called, she would complain about the pains and the discomfort. And then almost, it seemed like maybe it was a day, maybe it was only hours after hospice showed up, those complaints all ended. You don't want a human being to suffer. And, you know, she wasn't going to get better. Mentally, she had lost an awful lot of her capability. She had Alzheimer's, but physically from these infections, there was no hope of her rebounding. So I wanted, and I had told her GP and hospice, what I want is for her to go without the pain. And that's what they arranged. And I'm happy with my decision. I talked to all 3 of my children before I called hospice. They all told me the same thing. Dad, that's what Mom would want, so do it. Well, hospice, from the day we called, they brought supplies, but they also took over the responsibility for the medication. And what we wanted was, we did not want her to suffer in her last while. She never once talked to me about any pain. She was calm, but she never once said, I'm hurting, can't you do something? She was very calm from the day they arrived, I would say, on. Up to that point, she seemed to be, before hospice was called in, she would complain about the pain. But once hospice came, the pain ended. I could relax and spend time with her and not be worrying about should I be giving her a sponge bath, or should I be doing this or that, because it was all being taken care of. Wasn't something that I had to continue to do. And I never went in her room and said, where is the help? Because the help had been there. She physically smelled fresh and, you know, as cared for. You could just tell that. A few times they asked me again and again, do you need anything? Which was amazing to me, because I thought it was all going to be centered on Barbara. The night she passed away, I had gone to dinner, came down to her room after dinner, spent a couple hours with her, and they said, Paul, you're exhausted. Go take a nap. She will be here. But if you wake up, 12, 11, come on back. I did that about 12, and she passed away 5 minutes after 2 a.m. That's how close they were at telling you how close she was. Yeah. And she was, as I say, there was no pain, there was no, her face didn't show any distress at all. She was at peace. When Barbara was gone, and the center of attention was shifted from her to me, and they did a fantastic support. I don't know if I would have made it without them, because I was in a funk. I was not happy. That's not the way it was supposed to work out. She was 2 years younger, and I expected her to live longer than I was going to live. But I'm here, and I appreciate all they did. I think at times the social worker was almost holding my hand, helping me make decisions. She didn't make them. She just gave me the information, and when I had questions, she would answer them. After that had settled and the funeral services were over, I was invited to go to a hospice support group, and I went, and that lasted a few months. I can't remember quite how long. But in addition to that, a counselor would call me every month to see how I was doing, how I was getting along. Did I need help? Did I have any concerns? They were fantastic. Where else will you find somebody who's going to call you and say, okay, now that your wife has passed, how are you doing? Are you getting along all right? Do you need help? Can we refer you to some place or some agency? And fortunately, and they would talk not for 5 minutes. I mean, they would talk to you for quite a length of time, and they'd ask you, what can we do to be helping you? They did a fantastic job, and I still respect and appreciate all that they did after the fact. Not only will hospice provide palliative care or care near the end of life, but they're going to be around after the fact, and they're going to provide a lot of support. She would tell me that it was fantastic because she had no pain, and I knew she didn't want that. And she also, said, don't put me in a facility and keep me alive on machines. So she would have been, you did the right thing, guy. See you on the other side. But you did the right thing.